So I, told this to the therapist, and she said, and I said, she said, you're attracting this. And I said, well, that doesn't make sense. I said, one, I'm not going out and seeking this out. I'm swiping. How am I swiping wrong? And she goes, well, you know, one, the universe brings it to you. And two, once you've swiped on looks or whatever you're swiping for, she goes, I could look at probably your even casual conversations and see a thread, that you maybe you're not paying attention to, that we don't look at when we're just trying to, attract and flirt. And so, and I said, well, why? Because I have this abandonment thing. Would I be pulling in fear of commitment? And she said, well, it's the other side of the coin. She goes, there's two sides of the coin. There's the fear of commitment and or there's the fear of abandonment, and the other side of the coin is fear of commitment. And so you are scared of being left. And so to make sure you're never left, you're pulling in someone that can't stay. And I was like, whoa. So then I read an article that said, it was I think, psychologist or therapist writing this article about someone in a big city that was telling her friends, everyone in this city, every guy in this city is intimidated by successful women. And then she would go on a date, and it would be obvious in that date by conversation that the guy was, and she'd see, and go tell her friends again, see, another guy, he's intimidated by successful women. Every guy in the city cannot handle a successful woman, and this is, and she said, this person, because every time she talks to her friends, is complaining about this, will keep bringing in someone that is intimidated by a successful woman. She's bringing it to herself, which blows me away and just makes no sense. But it's kind of the same concept of, have you ever wanted a certain kind of car? And then you're like, I want a black Jeep Wrangler or black G-Wagon. Now you know what I like. And then everywhere you look, you're like, oh my gosh, everyone has a black G-Wagon. And that's all you see constantly. It's like the same concept. So I was like, no, this cycle has to stop, or I am never going to be able to settle down. So I am one of my exes that is now like best friends with Heidi and me, and is like auntie to my kids, and moved out here to, being near us, and was in my wedding. Her and I sat down, and I told her the story, and she says, we're going to write manifestations. Like, we are going to write what we're going to attract. And so I wrote, and I wish I had it in front of me to read to you. That would be very helpful right now. But I wrote out a manifestation, and my ex helped me tweak it to make sure it said, I will attract. And then I immediately after writing it freaked out, like, am I ready for this? And I literally sent it to her, said, this is my manifestation, I will attract. I was so into looks and always choosing my looks alone that I did not put any looks in there. Like, Heidi always teases me that I didn't put in, I will attract a brown girl, because I was very into Latinas and black girls, and I didn't put that in at all. I just wrote, I think it's because in my mind I was like, well, of course I'll look for that. That's never been, I've always, looked for that. But these are the other things. These are the things that I need to make sure I'm attracting in a person. And so I wrote it out, and then quickly said, but I'm not ready for that right now. Like, I wrote my ex immediately after and said, but not right now, not right now. I said, this is for the future. I just want to have fun right now. And she's like, okay. And a year later, me and Heidi went to New York, and we were cleaning out my apartment. And she found it. I tucked it away somewhere, and all of a sudden she's holding it. And she starts kind of shows it to me, because I'm having her go through my papers, and she shows it to me, and I turn bright red because she's holding it and she's getting big eyes, and I'm looking at what she's reading, and I reread it because it's just like a line, and realize that I've described Heidi, and here she's holding it, and I've literally brought that into my life, and I was so embarrassed of her holding it. But it says, I will attract an emotionally available woman that is capable of commitment, okay with her sexuality, fully desires to spend her lifetime with a woman, is strong, bold, honest, loyal, faithful, driven, and who loves the Lord. And the date is 4/16/2019. So that is Heidi to a T. And it was really important to me that I was really running into not only fear of commitment, but women that were having trouble coming out or were only comfortable being out in their bubble, like in New York City or Philly, or, where it was accepted, but then not, at home with their family, not on social media. And I really wanted someone just to be proud and be able to, where we could just be out and proud and live our lives, and, take each other home for holidays and these kind of things, right? And I know, and some people, that is not a luxury they can do, and so then it's just spending holidays with each other. Like, I understand the risks. I understand why people aren't comfortable with it. I understand all that comes with that. So it was with no judgment. It was just at the place that I had worked really hard to be, with the same kind of fears and coming out to my conservative family. And so it was just who I was and where I was and what I knew I needed for my future. As well as so not only okay with her sexuality, but I wanted it to be, I'd also run into a lot of women that I was dating that they wanted to be with me until it was time for their future, and then they wanted to go back to men. They wanted a woman on the side, or they wanted to have their first woman experience, which at times that was fun, and again, no judgment. But where I was at the time in my life where I'm like, okay, I want someone that actually sees her future with a woman. And as well as, we've talked about how it's hard to find faith and be able to be a Christian and be gay and all that comes with that. And that is not an easy ask. And I understand that. So I really was like, I want to find someone that loves Jesus like I do, and loves the Lord and wants to raise a family in that, and go against the conservative Christian church where they are against us, where is willing to take that battle head on, which is not an easy ask, as I said. And so it's so funny that it was Heidi, because the part where it says fully desires to spend her lifetime with a woman, that was her, and she was capable, and she had done that. And because it had failed, there was a part of her that's like, well, maybe I should just not try that again. But that was her deep desire. And so for me to open that up in her again. And so anyway, so Heidi is getting this tattooed, a shorter version of it, and in my handwriting, and I've written it out, so that's really special. So that is what she found in my room, and I turned bright red. That same psychologist is the one that I'm contacting to have a talk about this, and just because she very supportive of my relationship with Heidi, she knows all about me and Heidi, she knows all about me and my ex, she knows all about my, getting over attracting this and my fear of abandonment, and I just think it'll be a good person to talk to before I'm making these really huge decisions, and to really just, and Heidi is like, wants me to talk to a therapist anyway, and so I'm going to ask her if she's okay if it gets recorded, and if I play it for you guys. So stay tuned on that. But yeah, that's kind of where it's at. And then, going to move forward and, close this chapter and get the closure I need and figure out the best next steps. And going to contact my ex and have a conversation and involve her in this. And as Heidi has asked me to do. So, also what we decide and what's going to happen, and her involvement will be next.